Welcome. This podcast is a collaboration of Religica and URI, United Religions Initiative.
Melinda Kramer and Amira Diamond have been together as co-directors of the Women's Earth Alliance since 2007. Women's Earth Alliance aims to bridge the resource gap for grassroots women tackling our world's most critical environmental challenges, and their leadership is an inspiration to kids of every age. Take a listen.
Just in your own conversations, do you ask yourselves, what have we missed as a species? Like, what's the failure here? Is it a failure of imagination that leads to these levels of disconnects, both inside of us, external to us, in the world, in our systems that govern our everyday life? Is it a failure of just empathy and love? Is it when you have to chalk it up to, here's what's, for lack of a better word, malfunctioning? Here's what we need to fix. How do you think about that?
We were just talking about this yesterday, actually. And, when we look back in history, we look deep into history, we see human beings inextricably linked with the earth and reliant and in a reciprocal relationship with the earth. And along that path, what we feel is one of the greatest disconnects is, externalizing nature and the disconnect between humans and the earth. A big part of that in that industrialization of our world and the capitalization of our world, we lost the balance between the feminine and the masculine. And we live in a patriarchal world right now that we see that play out in our societies, in our governments, in our corporations, in our families, and in our traditions around the world. And what we're trying to do at WIA is to bring things back into balance, is to honor and remember how inextricably linked women are to the earth. I mean, some of our indigenous colleagues talk about women as being the first environment. After all, we are the first environment. The womb is where we all began, immersed in water, immersed in connection with everything that makes life possible. And throughout time, women have had a deep and profound link to our natural world. Today, we are in disturbing ways very linked as women to what's happening in the environment, into our climate. And without women's leadership in upholding the traditions, the traditional ecological knowledge, the seed knowledge, the soil knowledge, we would be in big trouble. And yet somehow women own less than 10% of the world's titled land. Women are cut off from much of the extension services and training that they need to produce our world's food and to have what they need to thrive and to feed their own families. Women around the world are responsible. We are carrying the burden of our world's water challenges on our shoulders, on our backs, on our heads, literally. And that means that we can't participate in our local economies, and girls aren't getting an education because we're so burdened by the growing water crisis. So those are just a few examples. And so all of that is to say that, the disconnect, in order to mend that, we need to see how we are bringing things back into balance, how women are engaging, not as beneficiaries, not as victims, but as active players in the design of our future.
I can say that in terms of, drawing from the story that I was telling about Julia Butterfly Hill and the work that we did with her and the work that really infuses solutions at every level, what that looks like is making choices that reflect your values completely and being unwilling to do things that fall outside of that. So for WIA, in building a capacity building model that will transform communities from the inside out, it's been critical that we make choices that don't replicate dangerous colonial practices. We're coming into communities and partnering with women who have a history of experiencing organizations that come in and set up projects that may not even reflect the needs of the community, that there may have experienced large NGOs coming into their communities that quickly left after they disseminated solutions. That we've had the experience of seeing water pumps that are now being used as clotheslines because they weren't actually put in the right place. The community wasn't equipped with the tools and skills it needed to maintain that. And so we've had to ensure that we're building partnerships that are truly connected, that are built on trust, that are built on listening, and that it's not about shuttling solutions to people, but it's about the exchange of knowledge and information across barriers. And the women we partner with are our colleagues, and we come together to co-design initiatives and programs that bring relevant solutions to communities that women know that they need. And the idea of listening is really revolutionary. To go to you would be surprised that entire water initiatives and strategies have been created without even consulting the very people who are the ones that are going to roll out these initiatives. And
You're
so
not surprised anymore though by this, are you?
we're not surprised.
Yeah.
But it's been a beautiful healing journey to be in relationship with communities where, the listening builds a bond, and that bond creates the love that sustains the work and allows us to partner with people for years, like Olanike Olugboji, who's our partner in Nigeria. Now, Olanike, you know her?
Yeah.
Okay, well, she
A small world.
she
Okay,
came.
go ahead. Yeah.
She came to one of our very first, she was actually one of the founding mothers of Women's Earth Alliance, who then attended our first Women in Water training in Nairobi, Kenya, where we were working at Dr. Wangari Maathai's Greenbelt movement. And at that gathering, Olanike came to learn solutions to bring safe water to her community, and it happened to be her birthday while we were there. And so we surprised her with a cake, and she got to make a wish about her future, where she wished that she would one day be the Minister of the Environment in Nigeria. And she really was able to just declare this huge goal for herself as a woman leader. Little did she know that a few days later, Dr. Wangari Maathai would be coming to the gathering and met all of the women and was able to, bless and listen to what their leadership journeys were going to be. Now, flash forward, Olanike has launched her own nonprofit organization called WISE, and she became so successful in her work that Women's Earth Alliance was able to partner with her organization to roll out a clean cook stove initiative in her community. But that partnership and that deep trust that has been built over the years is also part of what we are calling Weaving the Worlds, and that is what underlies our strategy to end what you're calling cultural amnesia.
When we look at kids today and we tell them, like I think of my niece or nephew, here are the values I think you should hold dear. If we're to ask those leaders, how do you respond to those? That's a question I have for you. How do you respond? If you said these are the 2 or 3 values from this height, from this horizon that you think are going to be absolutely essential to our future, to our shared future?
The first one that comes to mind for me is to cultivate a love for our world. And to do that is to immerse ourselves regularly in the beauty around us. That can be a small plot in an urban center of a little garden that you're tending to, or it can be jumping into a body of water or being in the woods. But I feel that when we lose our venerance, our love for this earth, we will, as a human species, truly be in that amnesia place where we don't know that we are this earth, that we're deeply connected, we're a part of this living being, and we rely on the earth and the earth relies on us. And I think so much of our actions will come from a place of love and joy. So cultivating that as a strategy is a really important thing to do.
I think that for each of us, it's important to define what our own purpose is. Why are we here? What are the things that we value? What are the things that make us come to life? What are the things that make us want to jump out of bed in the morning? And one of the things that Melinda and I have always done as the work of Women's Earth Alliance has grown strategically and intuitively and, as a response to the world, but also holding to the true north that we have as leaders. We've always paid attention to what we call following the yeses and really looking at where are the doors opening. You have to know the difference between like pushing on something that's not actually working and going with the yeses, following the yeses. So I think on a personal level, it's really important for people to figure out what is it that brings that yes to them, what makes us come alive.
If you had said no earlier and just taken a job at a 501c3 or a nonprofit,
Never.
You would have, that could have been, it seemed as you were mentioning earlier, that could have been a possibility in some way, but
And there were many inflection points. And there were years where we didn't know if we were going to be able to keep this work alive. Yeah. And we study that and we engage in that deeply in all of our programs in 18 countries around the world. We spend time with these cohorts of leaders who also arrive at those inflection points where it looks like they can't go further, but they have such a passionate drive to do something about the challenges in their communities. And we workshop that together. We talk about how to overcome those challenges and how to persist. And it really takes work to find a way sometimes.
In terms of personal change, for people who are listening to this, there are certain things that happen to us when we reach an inflection point.
Yeah.
How would you describe that?
I think for both of us, this work was never meant to be a career. This is highly vocational work. This is something that we felt deeply called to be part of. And, when you look at it from the outside, it looks like we have careers, but really we're just human beings who care passionately about the world and aren't willing to do anything but tend it and care for it. And I feel like knowing that the return on our investment of our time and of our lives has been so rich. It's that we have the peace in our hearts, knowing that we're doing everything that we can every day. And I feel like the disconnect that people experience so much of the time, the people we're talking to they're distraught about what's happening in the world because they're not part of the solutions. And it's like the gift is ours. We're receiving a gift by even being able to do this work and by being making the choice to reach our hands across borders and to be, pioneering these solutions. It's like we're the ones who get the benefit from that. So these inflection points have really been moments where we got to, more than thinking we would stop doing the work, it was risks that we had to keep taking to push the work forward. You hear we've gotten plenty of no's in our lives, whether we're fundraising or asking for meetings or trying to speak at different conferences, and just being willing to say, okay, well, that's fine. We're just going to keep moving forward and keep finding the right partners.
With a little dose of prayer, too. I mean, there have been some inflection points where we really have surrendered. I mean, we have prayed together to find the next way forward because it hasn't been clear at points. And I remember those experiences in my body. I can still put myself right at those moments with Amira where we just kind of put our hands up and asked for the way. And it's been really powerful. And I think the thing that I've learned the most is that we truly are not in control. We cannot control anything about our lives, but what we can do is influence. And so letting go of control and taking the reins of influence on the conditions around us, on the people around us, on the vision that we have is where it's at.
If you think about the values that shape who you are as individuals, as a community, in your organization, and you had to say, in light of all of that, here's why we think that Women's Earth Alliance is a gift to the world, how would you describe that gift today, and what do you want that gift to be in 5 more years?
I think the gift is the model that we've been creating. It's that we often have said through the years that the process is the product. So often we're asked to quantify the work that we're doing and the impact that we're having, and we do that, and that's been a great thing for us. But on a deeper level, it's the way that we're interacting with one another as a team. It's the way that we're interacting with our partners. It's the honoring of the whole person and the whole leader that we live through our work that is transforming the way work is being done. It's transforming the way that we show up for each other inside of relationship. And it's ultimately transforming the way that communities organize themselves by what we value. When we have a colleague who says, I'm not feeling like I have the energy to go to a program that's happening right now, I need to really invest in myself. And we're able to say as a team, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Even though that's something that you would be a star at, we believe in the bigger picture of who you are as a person, and we know that when we invest and respond to the deeper callings that each of us has, the boat ends up rising. All boats end up rising, and it's that spirit that infuses our work that has created the way that our model unfolds. That ultimately, I believe in 20 years, when I don't think we'll ever stop working. But when we're really reflecting on what the gift has been, that's where I believe it lies.
I mean, women's work is rising so much right now. We are creating a vision for this world and guiding in new and powerful ways. And I think the great gift that we bring at WIA is to create and invite those spaces, more and more of them, for women to gather, to strategize, and to build a power base and a collective vision for our communities that can be replicated, that can ripple out. And our vision is that more and more of those spaces are available for the women leaders of our time, the undiscovered, underrepresented, under-resourced women in our communities who are just saying no to toxicity and destruction, and yes to a thriving, just, and sustainable world. We need women's voices and leadership now, and we are working as hard as we can to open up more of those spaces for that work to rise.
If you would like to know more about United Religions Initiative, read stories of interfaith in action, visit www.uri.org. And to learn more about Religica and our allies, take a look at www.religica.org. Thanks.